Good afternoon, everyone. Loving the music. Feel like rock stars coming out. Thank you so much for joining our panel. We have such powerhouses of panelists here today, so I'm really excited for our discussion on blockchain and sustainability initiatives surrounded on COP28, one of the major events that just took place in the UAE. We'll start off with some introductions. I'll go first, and then I'll pass it on to Khaled and Dom. My name is Nikita Sachdev. I'm the CEO of Luna Media Corporation. Our bread and butter is Luna PR. It's a PR agency focused on Web3. We also own the franchise for Cointelegraph Middle East, North Africa, along with a foundation, charitable foundation, where we educate girls in India, a recruitment firm, and some more media companies. We're headquartered in Dubai with offices in Miami, Singapore, London, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here in Dubai, second time after FIFA World Cup. And I'll pass it on to Khaled now.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Khaled Huraimel. I'm the Group CEO of Beeah Group. We are a diversified group based in the UAE, and we do many things. We're the largest waste management company in the UAE, but we also are in renewable energy and technology, real estate and healthcare, and we also have presence in Saudi and Egypt.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dominic Williams. I'm the President and Chief Scientist of the DFINITY Foundation. DFINITY is the main contributor of technology that powers the Internet computer. The Internet computer is a public network that, in some senses, is a blockchain, but it has very different properties. It acts as a kind of cloud in cyberspace, which means that you can build pretty much anything using something called canister smart contract software that runs without firewalls. You don't need cybersecurity protection. It's hack-proof and it's unstoppable. And you can also create autonomous code that isn't owned by a person or a company and can be controlled by a governance system, which makes it very suitable for creating, for example, systems that are shared by a consortium or global financial rails, that kind of thing.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I want to start off with our discussion around COP28 specifically because both of you had such a vast involvement at the event. What were some of the key takeaways?
There's a lot of energy there, which was nice to see because it's addressing, very important, pressing problems. And, it was good just to see the sort of broad spread of participation from different kinds of industries. I think we're pretty much unique amongst the crypto crowd being there. We're pleased to be there and sort of fly the flag for next generation compute technology.
I think this COP is quite impactful. A lot of announcements, one of which is over 200 countries announced, putting a strategy to end fossil fuel. So that was a big announcement. And for us as Beeah Group, we've been doing quite a few things in that regard. We're building a large solar farm on the top of a landfill. We've already inaugurated the first waste to energy facility in the region. We also announced a waste to hydrogen project during COP, which is in line with the agenda for zero waste.
And not just that, both of you had an announcement together with your organizations. Virtual recycling credit. Did I get that right? Voluntary recycling credit, VCR. I want to know a little bit more about that. That's a term that you coined, both of you. And what does that entail?
The easiest way of explaining it is it's trying to do the same thing for recycling as carbon credits do for carbon emissions. So the idea is that there's an exchange and a framework where people can mint recycling credits. So, for example, somebody who's recycling plastic waste in Brazil can mint these recycling credits, and a company, say a large corporation that wants to meet sustainability goals and or environmental ESG requirements can buy these credits to offset maybe the plastic waste that they're producing.
That's great. That's fantastic. And it's interesting. Was that announcement taken out during COP28? Was that around the time of COP28?
Yeah, so there's a sort of a bunch of initial parties collaborating on the initiative. DFINITY's role is really just helping develop the actual exchange technology. But we work with Roland Berger and Beeah and ISWA, the International Waste Association. And actually, since the COP28 sort of reveal, as I understand, about 12 different countries have, government delegations have shown interest. So there's definitely an interest in the initiative. What I would say is, I mean, we're all focused on climate change and carbon emissions, but actually recycling is important too. So if you look at plastic, because plastic isn't being recycled properly, a lot of it's getting into the environment and getting ground down and turning into microplastics. And I mean, you've probably all heard about the latest research that we're all ingesting a sort of credit card's worth of microplastics every month. And they're now finding, microplastics in placentas, for example. So this is something that's really affecting human health. And nobody really knows what the long-term effects are of all these plastics in the environment and how they're going to, affect not just human health, but animal health and the environment generally. So I would say that, recycling is just an important thing as controlling carbon emissions. So.
But first of all, just to track back a little bit, I was asking back to COP28, and I want to touch base on the plastic aspect as well, on how blockchain can come in and kind of bring some solutions to this problem. But before I get into that, I wanted to go back to COP28. You guys took out some massive announcements during that time, but we didn't see a lot of blockchain companies at COP28. Correct me if I'm wrong. What were your thoughts on the presence of Web3 technology there?
I was surprised actually that there wasn't more representation from the industry. I think generally blockchain it's misunderstood. You hear people saying built on blockchain XYZ, and it doesn't really mean that. It means built on Amazon Web Services, and then you just keep some tokens on the blockchain. And that limits what you can do. The difference with the internet computer is it's more like cypherspace as cloud. So you can build anything. We've got like social networks running on the internet computer and full order book exchanges. So that means if you build something like the VRC, 100% on the network using full stack decentralization, number one, it's secure end to end. And number two, which is very important, is you can place it under the control of a decentralized governance system, like a digital governance system. And that means you can decentralize control amongst a consortium, for example. So you can create something like the VRC and, it'll have a governance system with governance tokens, and those can be progressively distributed amongst participants like governments, corporations like Beeah. And that means it's very important because it means there's no gatekeeper. And if you come into any industry and say, look, we're a startup, we can build some kind of system that's going to solve this pressing problem, generally speaking, it won't work because nobody wants to create a new gatekeeper within the industry. The nice thing about the internet computer from this perspective is that you can build pretty much anything. It can be arbitrarily complicated. And the VRC is already a pretty complex beast. But that code doesn't have to be owned or controlled by anyone. It can belong to a governance system. And that governance system is algorithmic, and it depends upon, makes decisions by people voting using governance tokens. And those governance tokens can be distributed amongst consortium participants. So that's actually a very important point. Of course, it's also important that nobody has to trust that things like audit records for recycling credits haven't been modified because it's a tamper-proof system. And there's no back door. And nobody's got a back door to the system. Nobody can just change the data or change the code. It's all transparent, all controlled by a digital governance system, which ultimately is controlled by a consortium. And so anybody who's buying a recycling credit from that system knows that it hasn't been tampered with, and they can look at the audit trail and trust that it's genuine.
It's so important to have a reliable blockchain protocol for something like this, because there's a lot of blockchains out there that maybe are not completely decentralized, as they say.
Yeah, it's not just about. I think that there are a lot of blockchains out there, and lots of them are very decentralized. But the thing is, most of them really can just only host tokens and bits of DeFi logic. And if you want to do something like this, you have to do something called full stack decentralization. And full stack decentralization means that the entire thing runs on the chain. So, the user experience, all of the heavy duty data storage and processing, the whole thing's on the network. And only if you do that can you be guaranteed that the entire service is secure and unstoppable. And only then can you place it under the control of a consortium. If you can only put tokens on the blockchain or little bits of DeFi logic, it's impossible to do. So the internet computer today is the only network that can provide this kind of cipher space as cloud functionality. So, I think it's exciting. The VRC is very exciting because it demonstrates what can be done with the consortium, and as it grows and you've got more and more players, it'll be something like the equivalent of an open source ecosystem, but for a network of businesses and governments, where they all ultimately have equal access to the system. And because of the properties of blockchain, nobody will have to trust each other.
And to be honest, the proof is in the pudding. There's so much new technology out there, but at the end of the day, what real world use cases are you providing? And I think with the announcement you just had, it's a great use case. So I want to go back to Khaled. I want to know a little bit more about what technology, what initiatives are you taking in kind of blending technology to better sustainability efforts?
Sure. I think first I'll talk about what we've been doing in waste management. So Beeah was established about 15 years ago, and we had the vision of zero waste. So over the last 15 years, we've been building the infrastructure, and we run 12 different plants where we try to recover as much of the waste from the supply chain. And last year we inaugurated our waste to energy facility. So we've reached now 90% diversion rate away from landfill, which is the highest in the Middle East. So with that being said, today we're also the largest waste management company in the UAE. We're also in Saudi and Egypt. So we started to diversify. And in diversification, one of the areas we diversified is into technology. So we have 3 companies now that we have started, one of which is doing the track and trace of all medicine in the UAE, using also blockchain. The other company we established is called Relife, which is an online marketplace for trading recyclable commodities. And we trade that platform. Hundreds of millions of transactions value-wise happen every year. We're also building a data center, a tier 3 data center that's actually powered by waste from our waste to energy facility. So we've invested a lot in technology. Also in waste management, we use AI a lot in our business. Some examples of AI: we have our sorting facility, which uses AI through visual recognition. It knows what's what and segregates the waste. Also, we've started testing in our vehicles cameras when we do the collection and street cleaning. So we know through cameras and machine learning if bins are collected, if roads need cleaning, and so on. Our headquarters also that we inaugurated over a year ago, designed by the late Zaha Hadid, is the first fully AI-enabled building in the region. We worked with Johnson Control and Microsoft, so we have hundreds of AI use cases running in that building, not just the building management, but also staff experience, visitor experience, and so on.
I love all these initiatives, everything that you're doing, and I'm curious to know at what stage they are. I'm sure it's quite advanced now, and that's one thing that I really admire about this region in particular. Because I live in Dubai, I've seen the technology being implemented so seamlessly there. For example, when you walk through the airport, that technology is on the blockchain where you don't even need to scan your passport. And I feel this kind of seamlessness is what will drive mass adoption, is when the users don't even know that they're experiencing the technology. But their upside is the seamlessness of it. So another point that I wanted to bring up was, in the announcement, there was a public sector involved with your carbon credit initiative. So why is it so important to bring in the public sectors and to bring in government organizations?
I believe to achieve sustainability goals, you do need the private sector and public sector to work together. We are a strong believer of that. Beeah as a group itself is a public-private partnership. We work with a lot of government. We work with a lot of private sector. And we've seen that model very successful in this sector.
I mean, I'd second that. I think with all these massive challenges, climate change, recycling of things that are otherwise pollutants, everybody needs to cooperate. And that's, the advantage of the VRC in the sense that it's rather than being privately owned, it'll ultimately be an exchange and a framework that's controlled by a consortium, something more akin to open source technology that's shared by lots of different parties and controlled through a governance system. These problems are so enormous and so important that they need lots of people to cooperate and come together.
I want to touch base on mining since the halving is coming up in April. How is that going to affect energy consumption, and how is that just going to affect sustainability?
Well, so, I mean, to be clear with the internet computer, so, one of the problems with being in blockchain is that the technology is so diverse that, people can look at one well-known system and project onto another completely different system, similar properties. So the internet computer is designed to extend the internet so people can build on it. And it's true that it's a blockchain and it provides the same properties in the sense that you can, run tamper-proof code and so on. But actually it's designed even to be more efficient in the long run than traditional tech. So that's kind of mind-bending that you could have a blockchain that hosts a social network and can do so more efficiently than traditional technology. So in that sense, it's important to note that the internet computer is a very efficient chain. It's something that even can reduce the energy burn of tech generally, and that's what it's designed to do. With respect to Bitcoin, it uses proof of work, of course, which does consume a lot of electricity. There's been a lot of movement within the Bitcoin mining community towards sustainable forms of energy. So although it does use a lot of electricity, when you look into it, often you'll find that the electricity is coming from sustainable sources, or it's being the spare capacity from power stations that would, can't be shut down, and they're not needing to, there isn't consumption, so it's just been put into Bitcoin mining. But having said that, I mean, as the block rate halves, there'll be less payment for electricity in a sense, so the energy consumption will go down, yeah.
To add to that also, yes, mining consumes a lot of energy, data centers consume a lot of energy, and for us, our waste to energy facility produces 30 megawatts of power. That's enough to power 20,000 homes. And now on our landfill that we're closing, because now we've almost reached zero waste, we're doing a 120 megawatt solar farm that we also announced at COP28. So we will be powering our data center through renewable energy. So, if we consider mining, it will be the same.
That's incredible. We're out of time, but just on one last note, blockchain and sustainability on its own are such important topics, but when combined, they're rarely brought up together. So I was very excited to talk about this topic here in Qatar. What are your thoughts on this initiative here in Qatar, since we are here in the region, in this country?
I mean, the Middle East is a whole new world in a way. And I've been coming to the Middle East increasingly regularly. I'm flying on to Riyadh. That kind of tells you everything. I think Dubai probably pioneered it, to be honest. And other regions are looking at Dubai and realizing they can do it too. And yeah, it's fantastic.
I think here, this region today is leading, whether it's Qatar, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, in terms of achieving sustainability goals and embracing technology to do that. So I see this happening very aggressively in the region, where this region will be the leader in this sector.
That's great. And congratulations to you both for being at the right place at the right time and doing such incredible initiatives. Thank you so much for listening to our panel.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.